Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited that you're here and decided to join us. So today I'm going to present to you the 3 keys to transforming yourself and thriving in life. Just so you know, I have my computer right below this camera. So if you see me looking down, it's either because I'm thinking or because I'm checking out my notes, making sure I'm not forgetting something. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ilse Comte-Adair. I am a licensed psychotherapist and a coach. I've been helping people transform their lives and their relationships for over 17 years now. And this, what I'm going to teach you today comes from a real inquiry in my own mind, in my own heart, for myself and for my clients, into what actually gets people to transform their lives, to make changes inwardly and outwardly. Why is it that some people seem to actually be able to manifest change and sustain change quite easily, while some others just really struggle through it, either to make the change or to make it last? And so over thousands of hours of working with clients, I've defined that there's 3 components, 3 elements, 3 keys to align, that need to be aligned so that change and transformation can happen and we can thrive in our lives and we can sustain that success, sustain that momentum in our life. And these are not totally new. What I will say, what is new, is I don't think I've ever heard anybody else put them together. Either one person will talk about one of those or another. Maybe they might even have 2 of them put together, but I've never heard the 3 of them put together. And to me, that's the secret recipe to a beautiful life and to ease and freedom and flow. So a little bit more about me. I live in Boulder, Colorado. I have been with my husband, Patrick, for just over 10 years, I believe. And we have 2 dogs. And that's me in a nutshell. So let's get going. Let's get started. I'm trying to keep this succinct. Okay, so key number 1. Key number 1 is awaken direct access to your inner guidance. And that's done for wisdom, for calm, for clarity, and for confidence. So many of us, and I will include myself in that, look for our answers, for our direction outside of ourselves. We follow our heroes, we listen to our therapists, we listen to friends, family members, people we see, somebody will share on Facebook something they've tried and it sounds great to us, and then we follow suit and figure out if it works for them, why not for us? And sometimes it will work. But a lot of time I've had very frustrated clients come into my therapy office, my coaching office, and say to me, how come it works for all these people and it doesn't work for me? And I've seen people say that about their business or about their personal life or about their relationship, just something that's worked for someone else and doesn't work for them. And my answer is always, because it's not yours. We have to walk our own steps, our own life, our own way. Most of us have forgotten how to get that, how to actually tune in to find access to that information, to those inner resources, to that wisdom that's innate within us. And so what do? We ask for advice everywhere else. We see somebody doing something and we follow their footsteps. But and then we wonder why it doesn't work. Because it's their way. It's their map. It's their road. And so that first key is essentially a guideline for discovering your own map, your own road, your own wisdom, your own guidance, so that you always know what to do, what steps to take, what makes sense for you. So key number 1 is essentially about discovering that you were given everything you need on the inside. You literally have an inner mentor. Some people call that inner light, your inner wisdom, your higher self, your soul. your still small voice. It's been named many different things. It's not new. Unfortunately, what's happened is because our focus has been so outward, we have forgotten how to tune in, and we have forgotten how to listen. And when we can tap into that inner voice, the things you should know about it is it's kind, it's creative, it's compassionate, it's patient. You start hearing voices coming from within, you check within, and it sounds pushy, and it sounds judgy, and, critical. That's not it. You're tapped into your own mind, you've tapped into your own ego, you haven't tapped into your own inner light. The inner light is subtle, which is why it's so easy to miss it. Okay, so part of, you can compare a metaphor, an analogy I like, is to live life without having access to our inner light is essentially like driving down a dark country road with our lights off. What happens with that is, first of all, it's scary, it's really slow going, and we take a lot of wrong turns. The moment you have access to your inner light, you can start tapping into what is right for you, your own inner guidance, your own next step that's actually going to get you to the end vision that you have, your way, not somebody else's way. So I'm going to give you a practice that you can start with to essentially awaken this inner co-pilot that you have already within you. So the first step we're going to do here is we're going to ground real quickly. And I recommend that you ground almost every time you're trying to do any of these keys that I'm going to mention to you, in any other kind of creative project, or when you're trying to figure out what to do next, or you're trying to recharge, re-energize, or you're just in the beginning stages of meditating or going for a walk or yoga, anything that feels like self-care. Grounding is a beautiful practice to start that with. So I would encourage you to either sit down or stand up, whatever feels more comfortable for you, but please do not try these while you're driving. You have to be able to close your eyes and just really tune in and not have to pay attention to your environment. So find a quiet place where you can actually be quiet with yourself for a couple minutes. And let's ground. So bring your attention into your heart. And feel your breath. Just start taking some deep breaths, slow, deep breath. And imagine a light coming from above. Almost like you're sitting outside and the clouds have just parted and the sun is just, the rays of the sun are raining down, shining down on you. And allow yourself to be surrounded by this light, and allow this light to permeate your being, to enter through the crown of your head and to start coming down and permeating your mind, your brain, every cell, every organ, and then feel it come all the way into your heart. It's moving through your whole body, but it's also almost like you have a battery of it in your heart, and it's refueling that battery within your heart. And now imagine, see yourself seated where you are, and imagine that you're connected to the earth. Almost like you have roots coming down from your feet or from your pelvis, from your legs down into the earth. And allow yourself to go all the way down to the core of the earth, where there's that molten fireball right at the center. This is life's creative energy. There's a light above us and there's a light below us. And start feeling that energy come up through your roots into you. And same thing, see it come up, up, up into your body. Start feeling through your legs, into your lower belly, entering all your cells, all your organs, and essentially connecting through your whole body and surrounding you as well. And then see it come right there and mix with the light from above in your heart. And there you are, centered in your own being, in the own fullness of your being, right in the center of your heart. And there is this light, the light from above and the light from below, and that is your inner light. That is what sustains you. So once you are connected to this light, and you are really sensing into what it feels like to be you in your heart, connected to the ground below you, connected to the heavens above you, and connected to the center of your own being inside you, within you. The first step is to drop in a question. Think of a question that you have. And to begin with, because you're learning to tap into your own inner stillness, don't use a question that has too much emotionality to it. If you use a question that you're too attached to at the beginning, then you might create interference, because our emotions can tend to create interference because we want to know the answer so much that we get in our own way. So drop a question in your heart, and you might just pay attention to everything that pops in, any image, any feeling, any sensation, any thoughts. And again, like any answer that comes to this question, it should be kind, it should be spacious, it should be compassionate, it should be patient, it should not be pushy or critical. So that's your first practice, is to learn to re-listen to this voice and how it shows up within you. You're essentially reconnecting the line of communication. And it's like everything else. It's like a muscle we haven't used. It could take a while. It could take a while to get all of that interference out of the way. It could take a while to really get a sense of what your inner guidance is saying and what the next step is. And what I encourage you to do is to maybe have a journal and to write everything down that comes up. And until you feel really clear, stay with the same question and go back to it every day. Every day go back to it and connect and ask the same question and see what you get, until you feel like you are really getting a sense, almost like relearning an old language, like your childhood language that you've forgotten. And suddenly it starts making sense and you're starting to decipher and discern what is being shared with you. Now, I will also say that sometimes our own inner guidance can come in a completely different way. It can come randomly later. You're taking a shower and boom, the answer comes. It comes in a dream. It comes in a conversation. You're literally talking to somebody and you tell them your own answer, and suddenly something clicks and you're like, oh wow, that was for me as much as it was for them. So you have to be on the lookout at first to how the answer from your inner light, from your higher self, is going to come to you. It could come in different ways. We're all a little different in that way. But that's your first practice, to connect to the inner light and to learn to re-listen and to discern that voice of wisdom, and to not automatically go outside yourself for your own answers. I would also encourage you to keep track of those, because it's a way of letting your unconscious, your mind, know that suddenly listening to these intuitive hits is important. And it's also a way of letting your own inner guidance know that you're now ready to listen and you're making it a priority, which will actually build on itself. So write them down, and sometimes you might be able to look back, months later, and see something that you missed originally and be like, oh wow, that was important and I couldn't see it back then. All right, let's go to key number 2. Key number 2 is to enter the flow of life and to build a deep connection to life. So in the first key, we go within for our answer and for guidance and for energy and for inspiration. In key number 2, we're actually tuning into the intelligence, the support, the resources that life is always providing us. And we're essentially starting a friendship, a relationship, a partnership with life. This is the moment where you realize that you have a co-pilot, a mentor on the inside, and you also have a co-creator, a partner, something, an energy that has your back, that is walking with you at your side. And the reason this is important is because I think that if we don't feel like we matter, like what we are offering matter, like we are being supported by life, it's hard to maintain and sustain the energy, the momentum, the creativity needed to move forward, especially if we hit a block of some sort. But if we know that the universe, that life has our back, that we are supported, then we can trust in something bigger than ourselves. We can ask for support. We can ask for help to something bigger than ourselves. So when we feel alone, when we feel disconnected, when we feel on our own, essentially we're drained. It's very hard to create momentum. We are not an island unto ourselves. And so the first step to really connecting with life is to realize how much life actually already provides for us. And I think most of us go through life taking all of these things for granted. You know, how many of us think about the fact that we don't have to think for any moment, for any second, about beating our own heart, or breathing, or learning how to walk or run, or healing a cut on our finger, digesting our food? All of that is automatically taken care of for us. Thankfully, we didn't have to figure out the sun. We didn't have to figure out the trees and the plants that take in essentially our waste and give us oxygen for us to breathe. We don't have to figure out gravity to be just right so we can actually thrive without being either floating around or pushed down and crushed. Everything is set up in such a way that we have the foundation for success if we choose to grab onto it to some degree or another. Some of us seem to be luckier than others, but all of us, all those things I just named, all of us have that. All of us share that. And so my invitation to you is to actually start paying attention. I eat my fruits in the morning and I start thinking about all the things that were involved and had to go right for this peach to end up in front of me this morning. And it's outrageous. Everything and everyone that was involved in bringing this peach to me. And gratitude happens in that moment. Appreciation happens. A realization that I am supported, I am loved, I am cared for. So that's the first step, is to really get a sense that even if you don't realize it, you've got an ally in life, that it is co-creating with you. It has your back. It is by your side. And it is creative, and it is wise, and it is full and whole, and you can count on it. Let's see here. Anything else I want to say about this before I bring you into okay, let's start a small practice here. So same thing, this is something you might want to have a journal for. But the first step of this is to start tuning in. So I already gave you a practice. The realization of how much support we have is a beautiful practice. This is more of a meditative practice. In the first key, in the first practice, we went within. In this key, you still want to connect. You still want to ground into the light below you and the power and the creative force and the support and the abundance of the earth and of life and the power above you, and know that you're deeply rooted, deeply centered between these two lights, and that you have your own inner light. I think that's always a great way to begin. The next step you do is you sit there quietly and you start sensing into the field around you, the energy around you. And you can start by thinking about everything you have, everything that's provided for you, everything that you are supported with without ever having to earn it, without ever having to figure it out or do anything about it. It's just there for you, and you get to use it and move through it. So that's a great way to start seeing how everything, the space around you, is alive and there for you and is supporting you. So as you are touching into this aliveness around you, the first step for me in this initial practice is to essentially let life know that you are here and you are trying to tune into it and tap into it, and to make, when you feel really connected in your heart and you feel connected with the space around you, the sounds, the smells, the wind, maybe if you have your eyes open, the sights around you, and just see that all of the space, everything around you is alive and is there, shared with you. You are in it and it is in you. You are one and totally connected with it. In that moment, just like earlier we dropped a question into our heart, in this one, drop an invitation into the space. And this, I'm going to give you a statement, and I would encourage you to use it for inspiration, but make it your own. So this statement could sound something like that. Thank you, life, for everything you provide me. I wish to be in tune with you, to be in relationship with you, and to co-create with you. Please send me a sign that you hear me, that you are here for me, and that I can count on you and you want to be my friend. Something like that. Make it your own. And then same thing. See, you sit quietly for a few seconds, a few minutes, and you see if you get anything. And this could come in as a feeling of joy, a feeling of love inside you. It could come in as a bird suddenly singing really beautifully and loudly close by. It could come in as a butterfly flying around you. It could come in as a thought that sounds really clear, like life is speaking to you through you. And it could also come later on in the day. A gift that you weren't expecting, a blessing you weren't expecting, a hug from someone you weren't expecting. And so your homework is not only to connect to the space around you and to make that invitation to life, for friendship, for co-creation, but also to stay really open and really aware of how life is going to come and let you know that it has heard you, and absolutely it is in partnership with you. And it's the same thing for a lot of us. We have forgotten how to listen. We have a lot of interference on the inside, and so part of it is tuning into the right channel so that we can listen, we can receive it. And so I'm going to invite you to do the same thing. If you don't get anything in 24 hours, do it again and do it again until you have absolutely no doubt that life is alive and it's here and it's working with you and it has your back. And you can feel like there's a flow of energy, an unending well that you can tap into, an absolute friend that you can call on for support. All right. Let's move on to key number 3. So key number 3, and this is the one, by the way, that I see that is most often forgotten. It's most often forgotten in New Age, spiritual type circles. And I think it's absolutely necessary. And that is, at first we included our inner guidance, our inner light, our inner wisdom. Then we included life and asked for friendship and co-creation with life. The next step, the next part of us that we have to include is our wounded parts. Most of us are really good about trying to go in and find that intuition, connect with life and get, life to answer our prayers or to help us in some ways. And most of us leave all the parts of ourselves that we don't like out. But if you don't include in your transformation, in your creation of the life you want, all the parts within you that don't feel good enough, that don't feel like they deserve, that don't feel like they're worthy, that don't feel like it's safe to shine or to be big, or feel like it's selfish to live a great life. If you don't include all these parts, they will get in the way. They will feel left out, they will sabotage, they will actually do it in a way of protecting you because it's not quite safe, or it's not quite okay to be successful. It's not quite okay to be the best version of ourselves. And so our role is truly to make sure that we are not abandoning an entire aspect of our being. Because when we're really transforming and it's sustained, when we are thriving in life, it includes the entirety of us. The moment we're leaving something behind, we're excluding something, already we're trying to move forward with, I like to say that to not include these parts is like trying to get somewhere with the parking brakes on. It's really slow going, it doesn't feel good, and oftentimes we don't get to our destination. So all of us have parts within us that sabotage our effort, and they're not bad parts. Oftentimes they're actually trying to get their own needs met. They're trying to heal trauma of the past. They're trying to get past an old story or belief that's limiting, and we're trying to essentially achieve our lives without actually going and unraveling all those knots. So you want to pay attention to what within you is afraid of change, is afraid of success, is afraid of failure. What within you doesn't think it can. It doesn't know how, it doesn't have enough time, it doesn't have enough energy. In some ways, it has a lack mentality. It can't do it. It doesn't know. What part of you doesn't think they're good enough, worthy enough, deserving enough? What part of you doesn't want to step out of the box, doesn't think it's safe, is afraid of being rejected, is afraid of being judged? We have to make sure we include all these parts. And so I'm going to give you and by the way, in many ways, this is the most difficult thing to work on for us. So I'm going to give you a primary practice to start to really feel into it. And the entire point of this is to essentially dissolve the blocks, heal the wounds, let go of limiting beliefs, and rewrite the stories that essentially hold us back and keep us playing small. And we all have them. I have them, and I'm always working with them. All of my clients have them, and we all work together. And what's interesting is that the more you move forward, the more they come up to be healed, to be met, to be released and freed up. So this is an ongoing process, but what I would say is that it gets easier and easier, and it gets clearer and clearer on how to meet the needs of the wounded parts within us. So the easiest practice I can give you here is when you're trying to change something or create something, notice what happens inside you. Does your energy drop? Do you suddenly get a negative feeling, whether it's anxiety or fear or a sense of, I can't do this? Is there a negative voice that pops up that's cynical or talks about the worst case scenario or tells you, who am I to be doing this? Something in you that feels pessimistic, that feels cynical, that feels down and drained and almost disillusioned. The moment you tap into that, you have your way in. So don't be disillusioned that it came up. It's good. What's in the way is the way to freedom. So the moment that you're thinking about a project, you're thinking about a change you want to make, see what doesn't feel good within you, in mind or in feeling, and then find it in your body. So is it in your throat? Is it in your heart? Is it in your solar plexus? Sometimes it's in two places at once. And I call this tracking the feeling. And this is the first practice I give clients. Most of us are really, we're really bad with, maybe bad is not a good word, but we're not skilled at staying with what's uncomfortable. We are very skilled at dismissing what's uncomfortable and going to what feels much better. And so this first practice is about essentially getting comfortable with being uncomfortable and not shying away from what's in the way, because you can't get on the other side if you don't first meet what's in the way. So find the sensation of this block in your body and then track it or trail it. Put a hand on it, either a few fingers or a whole hand, whatever feels good to you, And this is essentially a way of meeting where you're at and giving energy and time and attention to the part of you that's hurting. You are not trying to fix it. You are not trying to make it go away. You are not trying to figure it out. You are just here to be with it. And you track it. Sometimes they'll go from someplace to someplace else. Sometimes they'll drop in the belly. You move your hands with it. Maybe it's one hand, maybe it's two. And you just allow your hands to be the reminder of where your attention should be. And if you can, you send it love. You realize that this is a wounded part of you, a part that is afraid or stuck in some ways. And the only way, just like a wounded baby animal, the only way you heal it is by going very slowly and giving it attention. So those are my 3 keys and my 3 practices to stay with. And by the way, this last practice, 50 to 70% of the time, that's all you need to unwind blocks. They just want to be validated, these parts of us. They just want to know that it's safe to be with us. And they just want to know that we have our back. And then once you feel the release, you might even ask it for support. You might even ask it for guidance, and it might have some. And again, if its voice is really nasty, then it still needs a lot of attention. I hope this was helpful. Please feel free. I'm going to be right there with you. Feel free to leave comments, to post questions. And if you want to reach out to me privately, you can PM me or email me. I am easy to reach and very willing to connect with you. Thank you for being here. We're right around 30 minutes, and I hope you enjoy this. Bye.